I think the future of agencies is going to hinge on their ability to embrace this continual evolution of agencies that can blend storytelling with the science of data and remain nimble enough in the face of change will be the ones that thrive. And I think there are a number of areas where agencies will have to continue to evolve in order to stay relevant.
Hello, and welcome to The Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena Hengel. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Angela Voss, our CEO, and Rob DeMars, our Chief Product Architect.
Hello.
And we're joined by a guest, Dhiren Khemlani, our SVP of Client Growth.
Hello.
Welcome, Dhiren.
We are back with our thoughts on some recent marketing news, always trying to root our opinions in data, research, and what drives business results. Our topic for today is the future of the agency model. We'll cover two huge trends impacting agencies, in-housing and the rise of AI, discuss how marketers should evaluate whether they should hire an agency, plug into a platform, or build a capability in-house, and much more. So I have two articles I'd like to use to set up our conversation. So I'll just jump into the first one. This is from Olivia Morley at Adweek, and it's titled, ANA Study Shows What Capabilities Brands Are Investing in for Their In-House Agencies. This article summarizes a study from the ANA called The Continued Rise of the In-House Agency 2023 edition. The ANA surveyed their members, which do range in size. I took a look at their recent list of brand members, and it seemed to be a mix of both big and small brands, but it probably leans towards the larger end. And the ANA found that 82% of respondents said their company does have an in-house agency, which honestly shocked me at first. I immediately wondered how brands define an in-house agency, because this report also said that 92% of brands still use external agencies. But regardless, there's definitely been a significant increase in in-housing over the last decade. In 2013, only 58% of survey respondents indicated they had in-house advertising capabilities. In 2008, the first year of the survey, that percentage was 42%. The ANA said marketers are investing in more project-based assignments with agencies, fewer AOR partnerships overall, and more in-housing due to various factors like increased pressure to turn around content faster on channels like social, and the cost savings of in-housing. Respondents did indicate that cost savings is the top KPI they use to evaluate their in-house agency's effectiveness. The survey also found marketers still overwhelmingly rely on external agencies for media services, even as in-house agencies take on more and more marketing tasks. So that's just article one. I also wanted to quickly cover an Ad Age article by Elena, and that's called How AI is Expected to Reshape the Ad Industry. In my opinion, AI is going to change how marketers think about hiring an agency or in-housing work, so I thought we should cover this one as well. This article talked about research from Forrester, which included data like this. The top 10 agencies will invest a combined $50 million on partnerships to build custom AI offerings for clients, a prediction that creative agencies will rebound as in-house agency responsibilities shrink and agency reviews will spike. And just to add some stats to that one, 38% of consumer-facing marketing executives plan to review their media agency, and 37% plan to review their creative agency in the next 12 months. And finally, the boldest prediction of all, they said digital shops will, quote, disappear from the agency landscape. And to expand on that last one a little bit, Forrester thinks generative AI will lead to the end of digital agencies as we know it, because all agencies will need to offer AI services to clients, so the need for specialized agencies will disappear, causing digital agencies to fold into larger integrated agencies or diversify with media and creative services. But don't worry, we'll get into all of that in detail in just a little bit. I decided to feature both those articles for this episode because I don't think we can have a conversation about in-housing without acknowledging how AI could transform that landscape and the agency landscape in general. And speaking of the agency landscape, we have an agency expert, Dhiren, with us today. Dhiren has an extensive background in the agency world. He's worked at agencies like Young and Rubicam, Publicis, Grey Group, Engine, McGarry Bowen, and now Marketing Architects, and with brands like P&G, Unilever, Coca-Cola, Aflac, Progressive, Reebok, JP Morgan Chase, Vanguard, Allstate, Apple, and Hershey's. So we're very excited to have his experience and extensive expertise on the show. Let's start with in-housing in general. Dhiren, beyond cost, Why do you think in-housing has become so popular in the past decade?
It's not just about saving a few bucks, although that is a huge part of it. I think the real game changer is the sheer speed and volume of work that an in-house agency can churn out because they're right there. You've got a team embedded in your company's culture, so close that they're practically part of the furniture. There's no messing around with scheduling meetings, right? It's no longer of when can I get on your calendar. It's more of like, hey, let's grab a coffee and brainstorm in 5 minutes. And these in-house teams aren't juggling a variety of clients like an external agency would. They've got one act, and that's your brand. They eat it, they sleep it, they breathe it. They get down to the nitty-gritty of what makes your brand tick in a way no other outside agency could ever be immersed in the same way. And their response times are just off the charts. Something that urgent may pop up, and boom, it's handled. There's no need to wait in line behind other projects or other clients. So let's not forget also how out of touch some of these old school agency pricing models are. The in-house agency scene is booming because it's adapted to what businesses need right now, which is more control, more speed, and more bang for their buck. And so while these are all certainly compelling reasons to develop your own in-house agency team, there is a flip side to this coin. There's still a reason why external agencies exist. The talent and expertise in idea generation, the experience in developing and nurturing and bringing these ideas to life, and the art form that's required to execute it with polish can often be cost prohibitive to justifying an in-house team. But for brands that want to move quickly, in-house makes sense for them, but it's never going to replace the need for an external agency.
Right. Dhiren, you spoke a little bit there to the high prices that some of these big agencies can have. Why can it become so expensive to work with an external agency?
You're gonna take me out of the running of ever being hired by another agency.
That's good.
That's fine, because you'll be here anyway.
We can live with that.
It's a cocktail of reasons. If you imagine that you're trying to decide between building your own in-house team or going outside, initially setting up your own agency team seems like it's going to bleed you dry. You got to find the right talent. Then you have the capital expenditure of getting all the hardware and software set up. But this is a long-term game. And over time, some external agencies can bleed you way more. The external agencies are packed with hotshot experts in every field, from strategy to creative to media to analytics, the works. And to get access to that kind of brain trust, you've got to pay top dollar. And don't forget about their overhead, right? They have fancy downtown offices, shiny tech gadgets, conference rooms that are just gleaming, and those don't pay for themselves. Agencies also throw in the kitchen sink at you from a service perspective, right? Think about market research, branding, full campaign rollouts, media buying, tracking those results. And your bill is going to reflect every one of those services. They've got an old school model with layers of people to play, from account managers to creative directors to strategists, and all those people are clocking billable hours. Committing to an agency often means you have to lock into some sort of contract. Typically, it's an AOR, which is a year-long, if not multi-year long. Some agencies will work on a project basis. But whatever the terms of those contracts are, you're committing a chunk of your budget and potentially more than you're comfortable with. So that's their cost structure. But what you're also not accounting for is if they outsource something. There's a fee for that. They have to manage that third party. There's oversight hours. There's markup on those third-party costs in some instances, and you're paying for all of it. And then the final kicker of it all is that agencies aren't nonprofits. They're not in it for charity. Their profit margin is baked into your invoice as well. And these costs stack up, and we haven't even touched on extra expenses like the out-of-pocket production costs, the travel costs, the research costs, etc. That list goes on. And so the way the agencies' prices and their models are structured, it can seem like it's a relic from another era. And that's what makes companies so frustrated that they're willing to invest upfront in an in-house agency. That's why you see companies bringing it inside. They're tired of endless bills. They want more control over their spending. And in the end, it's about getting the most bang for your buck. And an in-house agency can offer that by cutting out the middleman.
Gross. I mean, aren't we all so excited to be working at an agency, right? But I think that was really the impetus, right, for our non-traditional agency model. the traditional model was and still is broken. And we sought a way to disrupt the high cost structure that is typically associated with agencies, which not only drives a better business result, but also removes cost as a barrier to entry into television. But I also think an important cost consideration here too, and you mentioned this earlier, is lost opportunity cost. Because sure, and in-housing can seem like a good move when you're just looking at the P&L, and for some brands with the right in-house teams, it can absolutely make sense. But the benefit of an agency isn't just their ability to output work, but also their ability to challenge the bias that might exist inside a brand's walls. You know, we all have it. And I know some of our biggest wins in helping clients grow have been driven by our ability to change mindsets on a variety of topics. It's hard to think that you're going to get the breadth of debate and thinking with an in-house team versus working with an agency that's worked on hundreds, if not thousands of brands and different ad campaigns.
Did we just cut to a commercial break for marketing architects?
I really wish you would support us a little more so I don't have to carry all the weight, Rob.
Hey, we've got all this great information. We can have a tiny little plug.
All right.
We'll get back to the juicy content for people. Dhiren, I thought it'd be helpful if we just got practical for a second.
Sure.
Can you talk to us about, like, there's so many different services agencies could do and brands can do. Which do you think would make more sense for a brand to keep external versus which should they consider bringing in-house?
I don't think there's a silver bullet to this answer. When you're a company who's trying to determine whether you want to go in-house or rely on external resources, it's not just a business decision, it's a strategic decision. Brands that often build their in-house capabilities is because they want to bring closer their core operations, services that are integral to their development of their brand identity, how they daily engage with their market and their customers. But there are specialized services that are more effective when it's managed by an external agency. And so when you're developing your roadmap of whether you want to build in-house or go external, there's a couple of things you should keep in mind. And the first one is market research and consumer insights. Complex analysis of market and consumer trends can require objectivity. And specialized resources that external agencies have is usually the way they go, why they rely on external agencies, because the broader market knowledge they have can provide the necessary detachment and avoid internal bias that an in-house agency might have. And you've got, as I mentioned earlier, the specialized creative production, right? For high-end productions, for shoots and things that demand specific expertise, things like CGI or sophisticated animation, an external agency has the right technical skills and has the equipment and doesn't necessarily require an in-house agency to build something of that nature. Media planning and buying. I mean, I know that's something that we do here, but when you look at the traditional media planning agency, they're negotiating and purchasing media space on such great volumes, and those volumes give them leverage. It gives them premier pricing in the marketplace. If you're trying to take your media buying in-house, you're going to be doing it at a much smaller clip that you're not going to be able to be afforded some of those luxuries that a major ad buyer or media placement agency is going to be able to get in the marketplace. And then think about it globally. A lot of brands are multinational. And so managing a brand's presence across many nations, many territories is going to require local insights, cultural sensitivity, but manpower on the ground in those places. Is it worthwhile for you to build an in-house agency in each one of your territories or regions? I mean, that can get cost prohibitive pretty quickly. So that's where another factor of having an external agency lies. So as I said when I started, there's no silver bullet. I think it's a matter of looking at what is your needs and is it best obtained in-house or external or perhaps a combination of both.
Dhiren, I do appreciate the list, even though you said that there's no real silver bullet to deciding what you should in-house versus outsource. So let's say I'm a brand and I'm looking at something like creative production, and I'm trying to decide, should I build this capability in an in-house agency or should I hire someone externally? What should brands evaluate when they're trying to decide, is this worthwhile for me to in-house or outsource?
I've had the luxury of working with brands where we were their dedicated agency, and then they started to build their own in-house capabilities. And in speaking with them, but also being around this business for 25 years and seeing it evolve, there's a number of factors that brands are evaluating on whether they should build in-house. The first is money. You got to compare the upfront costs of setting up your own team with the ongoing bills you'd rack up with an agency. There's expertise. Outside agencies have a deep bench with specialized pros. Trying to bring that type of talent in-house isn't cheap, nor is it quick trying to find the right talent. There's also control. If you're about having that tight grip on your brand voice and you want to push content out rapid fire, then by all means, go ahead, build an in-house agency. That could be your jam. But then there's the agility part of it. Speed is one, but when the market zigs and zags, is your in-house agency capable of zagging fast enough? That's where external agencies could be better suited to maneuver in a marketplace that changes so rapidly. Workloads can be like roller coasters, and agencies are flex. You can scale up and scale down, and you get to utilize the resources of an agency as you see fit. The same can't necessarily be said when you have in-house. Yes, you're going to tap your team, but you're ultimately going to hit capacity. And if you need to scale beyond that, you're faced with some limitations of what you can do. And creativity. Big buzzword. There's lots of people who believe they're creative, and we're all creative in our own right. But there's a craft and an art to this that has been the nature of advertising for years that predate me. When you're out there as an agency, you're mixing it up with different clients. You're getting different perspectives. You're tapping it in different marketplaces. That cross-pollination can spark some pretty wild ideas. I can't say for certain that you're going to get that same sort of breadth with working with an in-house agency that's only focused on one brand and doesn't have that necessary outside perspective to be able to really bring in cultural nuances and insights to sort of shape that work. Same thing goes with the insights that lead to the creativity, right? Agencies have their hands in a lot of pies, giving them a taste of all sorts of different things and nuances. And again, if you're just focused on one brand, are you getting that broad perspective? I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying I haven't witnessed it in the same way that you would see it in an external agency. I guess the final consideration is risk, is that if you're in-house and your key players leave, you might get caught short. But relying on an agency means that if they happen to have turnover, they have a whole stocked pond of other people who can jump on your business, and they can just continue in that machine as though there was never a blip. But you may not have that same luxury if you're just relying on an in-house team. So I guess to sum it up, it's not just about what's trendy. It's not about what, is where everyone else is going. It's what fits your brand like a glove. Sometimes it's both a mix of in-house and external. Sometimes it's just internal and you can get the job done. But I think you really need to analyze what are your needs and who can best fit them, internally or externally.
I guess when you think about the proliferation of the marketing universe, you can see why such a large percentage saying that they had in-housed some component of their marketing, which could be, someone's accessing the trade desk. And then still a large percentage saying they're working with agencies. I do think it's easier to in-house today than it's ever been, right? Just the rapid growth of MarTech platforms and DSPs and the like have just created this tool set that marketers just didn't have.
That makes a big difference too when you're deciding what to do. Now, I want us to move on. And you passed around this Ad Age article, and that's why we chose to bring it onto this show. So I thought I'd give you this first question. What role do you see AI playing in the future of agencies? Just a simple.
Oh, God.
Simple
yeah,
question.
no kidding. I mean, someone asked me this the other day, and it's hard to even put into words what I think AI will be to agencies. It's sort of like, imagine agencies were operating without computers and then they were introduced to computers. AI will touch every single role in an agency. I think whether you work in creative, media, analytics, HR, finance, legal, every single role will evolve with AI. And I think that's so exciting. I mean, what an amazing time to be in this field. I think this question of affected roles is a good one because I have heard a lot of talk of AI will really only impact transactional roles. And I think that's wrong. Even the most strategic roles will and already are deeply leveraging AI to produce better strategies. So entry level all the way up to the CEO, AI's role is not just a technological upgrade, but a paradigm shift that will redefine every aspect of a marketing agency.
In this article, there was a very bold prediction that digital agencies would actually disappear as AI makes specialization obsolete. So I wanted to start with Dhiren. I thought we could all talk about if we're bullish or bearish, but Dhiren, you're the special guest. So let's talk with you. Bullish or bearish on this prediction?
I'm 100% bearish on that.
What?
I'll tell you why.
Bearish?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's a whiz. It's a whiz at crunching numbers, optimizing campaigns, but it's got nothing on human creativity. At least not yet. There's nuanced emotions, narratives that resonate with us on a human level. That's our turf, not AI's. Secondly, specialization, it's not going anywhere. Are we going to do away with a digital agency completely? No. It's just getting a makeover. As AI takes on the grunt work, agencies are now free to dive deeper into the creative and strategic end of that pool, areas where AI is still treading water. And then talk about collaboration. It's not man versus machine, it's man with machine. Agencies that get this, that weave AI into their workflow, they're not just surviving, they're actually thriving. Personal relationships matter. This business is built on relationships, and while AI can provide support, it can't replicate the trust and personal attention that we're providing as human agency-client relationships. So yeah, AI is changing the game, but it's far from the end of digital agencies. It should be looked at as a tool that's powerful for sure. But at the end of the day, it's the human element that takes those tools and builds something meaningful with them. The agencies of the future will be the ones that harness AI to amplify what we as humans do best, which is innovate, create, and strategize. And that's where the real magic happens.
I mean, I don't even know that I would say that's 100% bearish, because basically what you're saying is they're going to have to evolve. And I think sitting back is going to end digital agencies as they exist. I'm definitely more bullish on this. I'm glad we're not a digital only agency. I know that. I hear you on the creative side, but many brands have a brand or creative teams anyway. And if they can use AI to build or augment their creativity, then really all they need is the digital shop for their media planning and placement, which feels like a space that's for sure at risk. I'm not saying that there isn't a way for digital agencies to remain relevant, but I think any agencies thinking that they're not at risk for disruption due to AI is likely to not be here in 5 years, maybe even less. I don't know. Rob,
so I don't know if
dying.
this is, well, I don't know if this is bullish or bear. You call it whatever you want. But I think everyone's role will be reimagined or replaced by AI in the next 2 years. I think humans have always shifted towards where humans are needed. And I think technology has always shifted where technology is needed. And when those two paths cross, it gets uncomfy, to put it technically. Advertising has seen this throughout the years. It's seen disruptive technology. You look at the role of the art director and how they used to use another human being called a typesetter that would manually put all the type into a print ad. Then computers came along, and programs like Quark and Adobe were now being used by the same art directors to place their type in, and now this role was eliminated. But the development of print ads was 10x'd in terms of the ability to build ads in a time frame that was never even thought possible. Another example would be video production. It would take a team of people to edit a television commercial together. And then all of the video production tools came into play and radically changed that landscape. I mean, there was a time when you would go to an editor and say, hey, I'd like to put a crossfade in that spot. And they would say, come back tomorrow. You know, that's how long things take. Now a teenager can do that on their phone, right? So I think the difference here, though, between those examples and what we're experiencing with AI, those examples took years to come into reality. AI is coming to us in weeks, and it's really jarring. If you feel unsettled because of AI, I think that makes you normal. In my opinion, though, as an agency, the fear shouldn't be about AI taking your job. Your fear should be about your competitor using AI to take your business, and that will result in you losing your job. So that's a bit more where I stand on that.
Well said.
I think there's definitely overlapping opinions in there. And I'm glad we're talking about it as an agency. We're in an industry that's definitely one of the biggest targets for AI disruption. And Rob, I totally agree with you that there are so many examples of this type of thing happening in the past, but the rate of change, just the release of the GPTs, we're recording this when those have been out for about 2 weeks, and it's just wild what has already come about.
Yeah, but my head feels like it's going to fall off. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, let's not let that happen.
Just build a GPT to catch it. You'll be fine.
All right.
We've talked about a lot today. We've talked about in-housing, talked about AI. So Dhiren, as our special guest, I wanted to give you the floor for this last question to bring us home here. Again, a very easy question. What do you see as the future of the agency model?
Oh, yes. Very easy question. Thank you for that. I wish I had a crystal ball. I can make some guesses on what I think it's going to take to remain part of the agency landscape. I think the future of agencies is going to hinge on their ability to embrace this continual evolution. Agencies that can blend that art of storytelling with the science of data and remain nimble enough in the face of change will be the ones that thrive. And I think there are a number of areas where agencies will have to continue to evolve in order to stay relevant. I know we were talking about the prediction on digital agencies still being around due to the advent of AI. And yes, I said I was 100% bearish, but I think Ange put it more correctly, was that it's more about how do you evolve to stay relevant. Otherwise, if you sit on your hands, yes, you won't be around, right? So in order to not sit on your hands, I think agencies are going to have to look at a number of factors of their business, right? First one being data-driven creativity, right? Can they harness vast amounts of data to inform creative decisions, which would lead to more personalization and more effective campaigns? How they bring that to life is where they can figure out what their secret sauce is and what's their competitive advantage, right? But AI and automation are not a fad. They're not going away. The use of AI is going to become more and more sophisticated. And right now we're looking at ways to have it handle routine tasks and data analysis. That's going to allow us to focus on more strategic and creative work. But Rob had mentioned, AI is penetrating those facets of the business as well, right? So the more and more you can wrap your head around it and get on board and ride that train, the more likely you're going to remain relevant, right? There's a whole host of other things that I think the future of the agency space is going to have to contend with, right? Can they be cross-platform masters? Can they engage with consumers across a multitude of platforms? It's such a fragmented landscape that we're consuming content in all different places. How do you make that brand relevant and consistent with routine messaging across all of these various outlets? Rob had mentioned it before, the skill set of an agency person is going to change. Skill sets within agencies are going to evolve, and with an increasing demand for data scientists, technologists, digital strategists, alongside those traditional creative roles and service roles. I had mentioned it earlier, agility and adaptability, right? Agency is going to have to respond quickly to market changes and consumer trends. That's going to be critical in terms of being agile and adaptable, not only in the way they go to market, but also in what their agency model represents. That has to be adaptable because it's going to continually change. Integration of new technologies, VR, AR, MR, those are going to be more prevalent. It's going to offer brands new ways to engage with their customers. And then content is content. It's going to reign supreme. What form that content takes, that's going to change as well. But content marketing will continue to dominate. The form and distribution of that content will evolve. And how do you stay on top of that as an agency to be able to offer those expertise in those areas to your clients is going to be critical. And I left the best for last, but measurement and attribution. Improve measurement tools, techniques. You have to provide clear ROI metrics for your clients in order for you to be able to stick around. They want to know that their advertising efforts, their influencing strategy, their spending are all being used the most efficient way possible, and they're getting bang for their buck. So all that said, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a wild ride in the agency world for a number of years, and it's a ride that I'm excited to be a part of.
That's no small list. So we better get off this podcast and get working as agency people. Thank you so much, Dhiren, for joining us today. It was wonderful.
Thank you again for having me.
That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. We'd like to thank Ayana Claphockey for producing the show and Michael Hingle for editing. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you find our show valuable, please leave us a rating and review. Now go forth and build great marketing.
I have one request.
Move Rob.
Yeah, we can
Put the Rob filter on.
all of Rob out. That would be good.
But you always make that request, Angela.
Yeah, I know.